And anti-gun activists have gathered outside the U.S. Department of Justice demanding stricter gun control laws.
They stood against you. They stand against us. They stand against our children. So we must stand against them day in and day out.
The protesters say the National Rifle Association encourages violence against people of color, women, and even political activists. The protest aims to draw attention to the use of firearms in domestic violence, especially murders of women. The demonstration comes just a day after gun control activists marched from the National Rifle Association headquarters to the Department of Justice. Gun violence causes tens of thousands of fatalities every year across the U.S. Now joining us out of Richmond is Mr. Chris Dorsey, U.S. civil rights activist. Hello, Mr. Dorsey, thanks for joining us on the program, sir. Now, the big question here, are access of guns in America to blame for this, for the gun-related deaths we hear about every year, or do you have a different view?
Well, I certainly have a different view. The basis of the United States of America is our God-given rights, and they're enumerated in the Constitution for the United States through the Bill of Rights. And number one is the right of free speech and free thought and freedom of religion. And the only thing that can enforce that, and the very basis of any sort of freedom that human beings have, is the right of self-defense, and that's enumerated in Amendment 2 of the Bill of Rights. It's also enumerated in its predecessor and the basis of the Bill of Rights, which is Article 1, Section 13 of Virginia Constitution, which says, well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. That standing armies, which is the police, and the United States military, which engages in aggressive offensive war against the American people in time of peace, to be avoided as dangerous to liberty. Yes, absolutely.
But Chris, see, that's the whole argument here. That amendment was designed so people could arm themselves from self-defense against what? A tyrannical government, something that they escaped from across the pond. They got on the Mayflower, the Nina Pinto, whatever, and they came to the U.S. to get away from tyranny, and now they're giving themselves the right to bear arms against a rogue government. But people, 12,000 homicides a year, 18,000 suicides a year. That's not what the guns are being used for, are they, Chris?
Well, the fact is that the murder rate in the United States is driven by the war on drugs, and basically that is driven by the War Department, which is the Pentagon, which imports, along with the CIA and the ATF and the DEA and the FBI, imports all the drugs into the United States and then sets up a war zone. The police and the FBI distribute the drugs, and those 12,000 murders you're talking about, well, I mean, that's down. It seems like that there's less murders now than there were maybe 20 years ago or so, and there's more gun control laws. But the problem is, you're never going to take my gun away. You're never going to take other militia members' guns away. And we do have an occupying army from across the sea because the United States government is controlled by foreign governments and a foreign bank called the Bank for International Settlements and a foreign lobbying group from Israel. And
Chris,
of course, yeah.
We're running out of time before we leave. So how do we preserve your right to own a gun so you can own your gun, and at the same time pacify and appease and cut down on the murders and cut down on this violent culture we're seeing with guns in the U.S.
Absolutely.
To appease activists that are against and want stricter gun control?
Well, those activists are guilty of treason, number one. Their opinion is irrelevant, and we will tell them so.
So how do we make America safer? How do we make America safer?
The solution is the abolishment of the United States government and the immediate arrest of all government and corporate officers who are engaged in war against the people. And the only way to get that done is for the people to have control of the money supply and all of the weapons of war. And it doesn't mean, arming themselves for self-defense, which is also lawful and will never be abolished. So the key is for the body of the people to gain control of all the weapons of war, because without the weapons of war, without the control of the guns and the money, the people are slaves, and the people are the creators of the government. God creates man, and man creates government, and without the control of the guns and without the people having guns, there is absolutely no freedom, no liberty in the United States. So all government officials in the United States, starting with the United States, then Russia, then China, must be abolished, and the leaders of all governments must be lawfully executed for their capital crimes in the United States. That's violating Article 3, Section 3 of Constitution for the United States, which is treason, war against the people.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks very much.
Thank you much for joining us. Mr. Chris Dorsey with his input out of Richmond, U.S. civil rights activist.